what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of RHOX Garage. I'm your host, Dan, and on today's episode, we're going to be installing part number WIN-3018, which is our 1/4-inch impact modified windshield for the Yamaha Drive. Now, before we get started, let's take a look at everything that comes in that kit and the tools we're going to need for the installation. So when you open up your kit, you're going to have your windshield itself. You're going to have your optional rubber seal. You're going to have your upper rubber clips, and of course, your bag of hardware. So now that we've taken a look at everything that comes in the kit, let's take a look at the tools we're going to need before the installation. First up, we have our cordless drill with an 8mm socket attachment. We have our 10mm open-ended wrench. We have a number 4 hex key, and of course, some safety glasses. And now, as always, before we get started, we just want to go over a few safety precautions. So first up, we want to make sure that we turn our cart off, set our parking brake, and if you have an electric cart, you're going to flip the tow run switch to the tow position. Now, the first step in this install process is to remove the factory windshield, but unfortunately for us, we do not have a factory windshield on this cart, so we won't be able to show you that step. So now, before we go ahead and install the windshield onto the cart, we need to prep it a little bit. So we're going to install our optional rubber gasket, and we're also going to install our rubber spacers. So to install that optional rubber gasket, we're going to go ahead and take the film and pull it back from the bottom of the windshield. I have the windshield flipped upside down on this table here so I can get easier access to this lip, but I'm going to go ahead and just peel this plastic back just a little bit. I'm going to peel it all the way back to the fold here. Now I'm going to take my optional rubber gasket and go ahead and install it. And then with the gasket installed, you can go ahead and trim off any excess you might have. So in order to trim this, I'm going to use a set of tin snips, but you don't necessarily have to use those. You can really use whatever you want, which is why we're not specifying which tool you need. When you trim your rubber gasket, you do need to keep in mind that there are little pieces of metal inside that gasket, so if you happen to cut in the middle of one of those or right next to one of those, you are going to want to pull out that little last metal piece so that you don't wind up cutting yourself. So now that we have our rubber gasket installed, we're going to go ahead and install our rubber spacers into the 4 holes on the windshield. So to make the install of these spacers a little easier, I went ahead and took the metal sleeve out of the middle of them so that I can go ahead and install them in the windshield, and then once the rubber spacers are in the windshield, I can put the metal sleeve back in. So I'm going to repeat the exact same process on the other 3 holes. Now that we have our 4 rubber spacers installed, we can go ahead and install the windshield onto the cart. So once you have all 4 bolts installed, you can go ahead and tighten them down. But you want to make sure that you don't over-tighten those bolts, as you do risk cracking the windshield if you do that. So now that you have your hardware tightened down, we can go ahead and install our rubber clips. On the windshield, there are notches notched out for those rubber clips, so we can go ahead and install those on there and then attach them to the cart with the provided hardware. So once you have your rubber clips installed, you can go ahead and remove all of the protective plastic covering from the windshield. Once you've done that, that's going to complete the installation for part number WIN-3018 on our Yamaha Drive. Thanks for watching this episode of RHOX Garage. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.